my mom tried to ruin my wedding. My mom almost ruined my wedding. Even now, when I look back at that day, I still feel this mix of anger, sadness, and confusion. Weddings are supposed to be about joy and love, right? A day to celebrate new beginnings. For me, it became a battlefield, and my opponent wasn't an unexpected disaster, but my own mother. Let me start from the beginning. Growing up with my mom. My mom has always been controlling. The kind of person who believes she knows what's best for everyone. Growing up, I felt like I didn't really have a voice. She decided what clothes I wore, what activities I joined, even which friends I could hang out with. If I pushed back, she'd guilt-trip me. I'm your mother. I know what's best. One day you'll thank me. As a kid, I believed her. As a teenager, I resented her. And as an adult, I tried to put some distance between us. When I met Alex, my now husband, I finally felt like I had someone who truly saw me. He valued my opinions. He asked me what I wanted. He made me feel like I was enough, just as I was. Of course, my mom didn't approve. Not because Alex was a bad person, he's honestly the kindest man I've ever met, but because he wasn't her choice. My mom always had this fantasy that I'd marry someone successful, someone she could brag about to her friends. Alex is a teacher. He loves his job, he works hard, and he's passionate about making a difference. But to my mom, that wasn't good enough. The engagement. When Alex proposed, I was over the moon. He did it on a quiet evening walk, just the two of us, under a string of fairy lights in the park. It was intimate and sweet, everything I wanted. When I told my mom, her first reaction wasn't joy. It wasn't even a fake smile. It was disappointment. She said, "Well, I suppose congratulations are in order. But are you sure about this? You could do better." That should have been the first red flag. But I brushed it aside. I told myself she just needed time to accept it. Oh, how wrong I was. Wedding planning hell. If you've ever planned a wedding, you know it's stressful. But with my mom involved, it became a nightmare. First, she criticized every decision I made. The venue? Too small. People will think you're cheap. The dress I chose? That cut doesn't flatter you. You'll regret it. The menu? Your guests deserve better than chicken and pasta. She even tried to change the guest list. She insisted on inviting people I barely knew, her friends from work, distant relatives I hadn't spoken to in years, while telling me to cut some of my own friends because the numbers were too high. At one point, she actually called the florist I had booked and tried to change my order behind my back. I only found out because the florist emailed me to confirm the new arrangements. I was furious. When I confronted her, she said, "I'm just trying to save you from embarrassing yourself. You don't know how weddings are supposed to be done." The breaking point before the wedding. A week before the wedding, tensions exploded. We were doing a final walkthrough at the venue. Alex was there, my mom was there, and a few bridesmaids came to help. Everything seemed fine until my mom pulled me aside and whispered, "You know, it's not too late to call this off. You're making a mistake. You'll thank me later if you walk away." I stared at her, stunned. This wasn't just about the flowers or the food. She genuinely wanted me to not marry Alex. I lost it. I told her, "If you can't support me, then don't come at all." Her face went pale. She looked like I had slapped her. She didn't yell, she didn't cry, she just gave me this cold, icy stare and walked away. For the next few days, she barely spoke to me. Part of me hoped she'd cool down before the wedding. But I should have known better. The wedding day disaster. The morning of my wedding, I woke up feeling anxious but excited. My bridesmaids were buzzing around, doing hair and makeup, and I was trying to soak in the moment. Then my maid of honor rushed into the room, pale as a ghost. "You're not going to believe this," she said. Turns out, my mom had shown up early at the venue and started rearranging everything. She told the staff the seating chart was wrong and moved people around. She tried to swap out the playlist we had chosen with one she approved. She even told Alex's mother that her dress was inappropriate and suggested she change. When I walked into the venue and saw the chaos, I almost cried. I pulled my mom aside and whispered, "No, hissed, what are you doing? This is my wedding." She replied, "I'm saving your wedding. You'll thank me later." That was it. I snapped. I told the coordinator that under no circumstances was my mother to make any more decisions. I made it clear that if she interfered again, she'd be escorted out. She looked shocked, like I had betrayed her. And then she caused the biggest scene of all. Right before the ceremony, as guests were being seated, my mom stood up and announced loudly, "I can't watch my daughter throw her life away. This wedding is a mistake." Gasps filled the room. I wanted the ground to swallow me whole. Alex squeezed my hand and whispered, "Ignore her. This is about us." And you know what? That's what I did. I walked down that aisle, tears in my eyes, but determination in my heart. I married the man I loved, even as my mom stormed out halfway through the vows. Aftermath. The days after the wedding were hard. I was heartbroken, not because of Alex, but because of my mom. How could she put her pride, her control, above my happiness? Some relatives sided with her, saying I was disrespectful. Others reached out privately to tell me they were shocked by her behavior and proud of me for standing my ground. As for my mom, we barely spoke for months. When she finally called, she acted like nothing happened. She said, "Well, you're married now. I guess we move on." But can you really move on from something like that? From someone trying to sabotage one of the most important days of your life? Reflection. Looking back, I realize my mom's behavior wasn't about me at all. It was about control. She couldn't handle the fact that I was making choices for myself, that I was building a life outside of her influence. Do I still love her? Yes, she's my mom. But do I trust her? No. And I don't know if I ever fully will again. My wedding day wasn't perfect. It was messy, emotional, and filled with drama. But at the end of it, I walked away with the love of my life by my side. And maybe, that's what really matters. Because here's the truth, sometimes, family can hurt you the most. Sometimes, the people who are supposed to love you unconditionally put conditions on their love. But that doesn't mean you have to let them control your happiness. And me? I chose happiness. I chose Alex. I chose me. My brother stole my inheritance and my parents defended him. Family drama has a way of cutting deeper than any other kind of betrayal. Strangers can hurt you, friends can disappoint you, but when it's your own blood, that wound doesn't heal easily. This is the story of how my brother stole something that was rightfully mine, how my parents defended him, and how it shattered the idea of family I thought I had. Growing up in my family. I'm the oldest of 2 kids. My younger brother, Ryan, is 3 years younger than me. From the moment he was born, it felt like he was the golden child. He was the baby of the family, the one everyone adored. If he cried, the world stopped. If he messed up, excuses were made. I wasn't jealous, at least not at first. I was proud to be the older sister who looked out for him. But as we got older, I noticed the difference in how we were treated. If I got a B on a test, my parents asked why I didn't get an A. If Ryan got a C, they said, "At least you passed." If I forgot to do a chore, I was grounded. If Ryan forgot, my parents said, "She can do it, she's older." It was always like that, me being held to higher standards, him being coddled. I tried not to let it get to me. I figured, one day, things would balance out. My grandparents' promise. The one place I felt truly valued was at my grandparents' house. My grandma and grandpa lived a few towns over, and I spent countless weekends there. They always made me feel special. My grandparents weren't rich, but they had worked hard their whole lives and saved carefully. One day, when I was about 16, my grandpa sat me down and told me something I'll never forget. He said, "When we're gone, we want you to have the house. You've always been responsible, and we know you'll take care of it. Your brother will be fine, he'll get money set aside for him. But the house, that's for you." I was shocked, but also honored. This wasn't just a financial gift, it was a legacy. A place full of memories. A place I imagined raising my future family in. Ryan didn't know about this arrangement, and honestly, I didn't plan to brag. I thought my grandparents might tell him when the time was right. The loss. When I was 24, everything changed. My grandparents passed away within months of each other. It was devastating. After the funeral, the subject of the inheritance came up. That's when the nightmare began. I expected some tension, sure. Money always brings out conflict. But I never imagined the betrayal that was about to unfold. The will. The will was straightforward. Ryan was to receive a significant sum of money, enough for a down payment on a house, or to pay off debt, or even start a business. I was to inherit my grandparents' house. It was exactly what my grandparents had told me years earlier. But Ryan's reaction? Pure rage. He stormed out of the lawyer's office, yelling that it wasn't fair. He said, "Why does she get the house? She always gets everything. I deserve it more." I was stunned. Everything? I thought. Did he not remember all the times he was spoiled while I was held responsible? But it didn't matter. In his mind, he was entitled. My parents' betrayal. At first, I thought my parents would talk some sense into him. Instead, they shocked me. That night, my mom and dad sat me down and said, "You should give the house to Ryan." I laughed, thinking they were joking. They weren't. They argued that Ryan was younger, that he needed stability, that it wasn't fair for me to get something so valuable while he only got money that would eventually run out. I said, "But this is what Grandma and Grandpa wanted. It's in the will." My mom snapped back, "Sometimes what's on paper isn't what's right for the family." I couldn't believe it. My grandparents' wishes meant nothing to them. It was all about keeping Ryan happy. The theft. I refused to sign anything over. The house was mine legally. For a while, Ryan stopped speaking to me. My parents gave me the cold shoulder too, calling me selfish and greedy. I was hurting, but I stood my ground. Then, one day, I got a call from a neighbor near my grandparents' house. They said they saw people moving things out. I rushed over, and found Ryan there, with a moving truck, hauling furniture out of my house. I lost it. I screamed at him, asking what he thought he was doing. He smirked and said, "Mom and Dad said it was fine. This place is basically mine anyway." I called the police. It was one of the hardest things I've ever done, but I couldn't let him rob me of what was legally mine. Ryan tried to play the victim, telling the cops it was his inheritance. But the paperwork was clear, the house was in my name. He had no right to be there. Family fallout. After that incident, things completely exploded. My parents were furious with me, not at Ryan for stealing, but at me for humiliating him by calling the police. They said, "He's your brother. Family doesn't call the cops on family." I replied, "Family doesn't steal from family." We didn't speak for months. Holidays were a disaster. I spent Christmas alone because my parents didn't want tension at the table. It hurt more than I can explain. I felt like I had lost not just my grandparents, but my entire family. The turning point. Over time, I started to see things more clearly. My parents had always enabled Ryan. Always made excuses. Always bent the rules for him. Why would it be any different now? I realized that if I gave in, if I let him take the house, it wouldn't end there. He'd keep taking. And my parents would keep defending him. So I cut contact. Not fully, but enough to protect myself. Limited texts, no family events, no phone calls. I poured my energy into fixing up the house. It became my safe haven. Every coat of paint, every repair, felt like reclaiming not just the home, but my independence. Where we are now. It's been 2 years since all this happened. Ryan still won't speak to me. My parents send the occasional guilt-tripping message, but I ignore most of them. Sometimes I feel guilty. Sometimes I wonder if I should have just kept the peace. But then I remind myself, peace built on injustice isn't peace at all. My grandparents trusted me. They wanted me to have this house. Honoring their wishes is the only thing that feels right. And honestly, I've never been more at peace than I am now, even if it means my family sees me as the villain. Because here's the truth, sometimes family isn't about blood. Sometimes family is about the people who truly respect you, who stand by you, who don't try to take what isn't theirs. And sometimes, choosing yourself means walking away from the ones who should have loved you most. My mom tried to replace my dad and expected me to go along with it. Family is supposed to be built on love, honesty, and loyalty. But what happens when one parent decides to rewrite history and expects everyone else to pretend nothing happened? This is the story of how my mom tried to erase my dad from our lives, how she introduced her new husband as if nothing had changed, and how I was forced to choose between my parents. Childhood memories. I grew up in what I thought was a normal, happy family. My dad worked long hours as an electrician, and my mom stayed home with me and my little sister, Emily. We weren't rich, but we had what we needed. Family dinners, board game nights, road trips in the summer, it felt stable, safe, and loving. My dad wasn't perfect, but he was steady. He showed up to every school concert, every soccer game, every parent-teacher meeting. He was the rock of our family. I never imagined that would all come crashing down. The divorce. When I was 15, my parents sat me and Emily down for a family talk. My mom did most of the talking. She said she and Dad weren't happy anymore and that they had decided to separate. I remember looking at my dad, waiting for him to say something, but he just sat there silently, his face tight, like he was holding back tears. I was shocked. There hadn't been screaming matches or slammed doors. At least not that I'd seen. The divorce went quickly. Too quickly. My mom already had a lawyer lined up, the paperwork ready, the custody schedule planned. At the time, I thought maybe she was just being efficient. But later, I learned the truth. The new guy. Barely 6 months after the divorce, my mom introduced us to someone new. His name was Steve. At first, she said he was just a friend. But it didn't take long to realize he was more than that. He was over all the time, fixing things around the house, cooking dinner, sitting in Dad's old chair at the table. Emily was only 12 at the time and she adjusted quickly. But me? I hated it. Every time I looked at Steve, I felt like I was betraying my dad just by being in the same room. One day, I overheard a conversation between my mom and Steve. She laughed and said, "It's good we don't have to sneak around anymore." That's when it hit me. She'd been with him before the divorce. Erasing my dad. As Steve's presence grew, my mom started doing something even worse, she began pushing my dad out of our lives. She stopped letting him pick us up for his scheduled weekends, claiming we had plans. She told Emily and me that Dad wasn't reliable and didn't care enough to fight for us. She even took down all the family photos with him in them and replaced them with pictures of Steve. I confronted her once, asking why she was doing this. She snapped, "Your father isn't part of this family anymore. Steve is." I was floored. My dad hadn't abandoned us, he'd been pushed out. The breaking point. The final straw came when my mom told me and Emily that we were going to start calling Steve Dad. I was 16 at the time and I refused. I told her I already had a dad, and no one could replace him. Emily, being younger and more impressionable, reluctantly went along with it. She started calling Steve Dad, and my mom beamed every time. But me? I dug my heels in. I kept seeing my real dad in secret, sneaking phone calls and visits when my mom wasn't paying attention. The more I resisted, the more tension grew between me and my mom. She accused me of being ungrateful and disrespectful. She said I was breaking up the family by not accepting Steve. But I wasn't the one breaking the family. She was. Graduation day. When I graduated high school, it turned into a full-blown disaster. My dad showed up early, sitting quietly in the stands, proud and smiling. When my mom saw him, she went pale with anger. After the ceremony, when families were taking pictures, I ran to hug my dad first. My mom stormed over and hissed in my ear, "Don't you dare make a scene." But it was already too late. She introduced Steve as my dad to all the other parents, right in front of my real father. I'll never forget the look on my dad's face, hurt, humiliated, like his entire existence had been erased. That night, I told my mom I was moving in with Dad. She screamed, begged, cried, and finally spat out, "Fine. Go live with him. Don't expect me to welcome you back when he disappoints you." But he never did. Life with my dad. Moving in with my dad was the best decision I ever made. Life wasn't luxurious, but it was honest. He never badmouthed my mom. Never tried to make me choose sides. He just let me be, supported me, and reminded me that he loved me. Meanwhile, my relationship with my mom deteriorated. She still sends messages, still tries to guilt-trip me into visiting, but I can't bring myself to play along with her version of reality. Emily still lives with her. She calls Steve Dad now without hesitation. It hurts, but I can't blame her. She was young, and she needed stability. I just wish my mom had realized that stability doesn't come from replacing people, it comes from being honest. Looking back. I'm 22 now, and the wounds are still fresh. My mom wanted to rewrite our family history, to erase my dad and slot someone else in like he was a piece of furniture. But here's what I've learned. You can't replace someone just because it's convenient. You can't demand loyalty when you've destroyed trust. And you can't call it family if it's built on lies. I'll never stop loving my mom, but I can't forgive the way she tried to erase my dad. And I'll never stop being grateful to my father, who showed me what real love looks like, not through words, but through quiet, steady actions. Because in the end, family isn't about who sits at the table. It's about who shows up when you need them most. And for me, that will always be my dad.